On December 21, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 took off from London's Heathrow Airport, bound for New York City. It was a routine transatlantic flight carrying 243 passengers and 16 crew members, many of whom were Americans returning home for the holidays. The passengers settled into their seats, unaware that they would never reach their destination. Just 38 minutes after takeoff, as the Boeing 747 flew over the small town of Lockerbie in Scotland, an explosion ripped through the aircraft, tearing it apart at 31,000 feet. In an instant, Pan Am Flight 103 and everyone on board became victims of one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in history.
As the shattered plane plummeted from the sky, debris rained down on Lockerbie, scattering across a wide area and causing destruction on the ground. A large section of the fuselage crashed onto Sherwood Crescent, a quiet residential street, creating a massive crater and engulfing nearby homes in flames. 11 residents were killed instantly, adding to the toll of those lost on board. The impact was so powerful that it left a scene of devastation and chaos, with burning wreckage, shattered homes, and an eerie silence. The town of Lockerbie, known for its peace and tranquility, was suddenly thrust into the spotlight as the site of an international tragedy.
News of the disaster quickly spread around the world, and families began to receive the heartbreaking news that their loved ones would not be coming home. In the United States, where most of the passengers were from, entire communities mourned, especially in New Jersey and Syracuse. New York, where a group of 35 Syracuse University students had been returning from a study abroad program. The scale of the tragedy was overwhelming as grieving families and friends struggled to comprehend the horror of losing loved ones to such a senseless act. The Lockerbie bombing shocked the world, and the lives lost that day became a symbol of the innocent victims caught in the crossfire of international terrorism.
In the immediate aftermath, authorities launched one of the largest and most complex investigations in aviation history. Scottish and American investigators, along with international law enforcement agencies, worked tirelessly to piece together the evidence scattered across Lockerbie's countryside. Forensic experts sifted through wreckage, eventually discovering the telltale signs of a bomb in the aircraft's forward cargo hold. Traces of the explosive PET were identified, leading investigators to suspect that a sophisticated, concealed device had been placed inside a suitcase. Months of painstaking work eventually pointed to a suitcase originating from Malta, which contained a cassette player modified to hide an explosive device. The bomb had been timed to detonate mid-flight with devastating precision.
The investigation continued for years as authorities followed a complex trail across multiple countries and continents. Eventually, evidence linked the bombing to Libyan operatives, including Abdelbasset al-Megrahi, an alleged intelligence officer, and Lamin Khalifa Fhimah, a former station manager for Libyan Arab Airlines. In 1991, Scottish and American authorities formally charged the two Libyan nationals with murder. Diplomatic tensions between Libya and Western nations escalated, and Libya initially refused to extradite the suspects. After years of negotiations and international pressure, Libya eventually agreed to hand over the two suspects for trial under Scottish law in a neutral country. The world watched as the suspects were finally brought to justice, though it would be years before the case reached a resolution.
In 2000, the trial of Abdelbasset al-Megrahi and Lamin Khalifa Fhimah began at Camp Zeist, a special court established in the Netherlands under Scottish law. The trial was groundbreaking, as it was one of the first instances of an international court formed specifically for a terrorism case. After months of testimony, Fhimah was acquitted due to lack of evidence, While al-Megrahi was found guilty of 270 counts of murder, the 259 lives lost on the plane and the 11 on the ground. He was sentenced to life in prison. The conviction of al-Megrahi provided a sense of closure for many of the victims' families, though questions about his role in the attack and suspicions of state-sponsored terrorism lingered.
The Lockerbie bombing had a profound impact on global aviation security, leading to significant reforms in airport screening, baggage handling, and intelligence sharing between nations. Pan Am, once one of the world's leading airlines, was unable to recover from the blow to its reputation and financial losses, eventually declaring bankruptcy in 1991. Diplomatic relations between Libya and Western nations remained strained until 2003, when Libya formally accepted responsibility for the bombing and agreed to pay $2.7 billion in compensation to the victims' families. This marked a turning point in international relations, as Libya sought to reintegrate itself into the global community and renounced its support for terrorism.
For the families of the victims, the journey for truth and justice continued long after the trial and compensation settlements. Many family members organized advocacy groups, pushing for greater transparency in the investigation and accountability from those who orchestrated the attack. Some family members believed that others involved in the plot remained free, while others questioned the handling of the case, particularly the role of intelligence agencies and international diplomacy. The family's efforts kept the memory of the victims alive and ensured that the lessons of Lockerbie were not forgotten. Their resilience became an essential part of the legacy, honoring the lives of those lost and demanding justice and accountability.
The Lockerbie bombing changed the landscape of aviation security forever. In response to the attack, airports around the world adopted stricter screening procedures, particularly for checked baggage. Explosives detection systems became standard, and international regulations on security were strengthened. Intelligence sharing between countries was also enhanced, with agencies working together more closely to prevent similar attacks. The bombing served as a wake-up call, highlighting the vulnerabilities of commercial aviation to terrorism and shaping modern security protocols. Today's stringent airport security measures trace their origins to the lessons learned from Lockerbie, as the aviation industry continues to prioritize the safety of its passengers.
Each year, the town of Lockerbie, along with families of the victims around the world, holds memorial services to honor the lives lost in the bombing. In the town, a memorial garden and a stone bearing the names of the victims serve as a place of remembrance, while Syracuse University maintains a scholarship fund in memory of the students who perished. The story of Pan Am Flight 103 remains a powerful reminder of the human cost of terrorism, but it also stands as a testament to resilience, justice, and the pursuit of peace. The legacy of the Lockerbie bombing endures, shaping policies and uniting people in a shared commitment to prevent future tragedies.